Welcome back, my gardening friends. Today we are going to prep a newly planted rose bush for winter. So I am in West Central Missouri, which is growing zone 6B. And this rose plant was just planted this past fall. I actually did an update video back in the fall to show you what it looked like just a few weeks after it had been planted, and somebody recently asked me for an update, so I figured now was a really good time to do that because we have some very severe cold weather that's getting ready to move in. Now, up until now, our winter weather has been fairly mild, and that means a couple of things for this rose bush. It looks like it is doing really well, but it also means that it needs some prep before we actually get into these super cold temperatures. So let's talk a little bit about what we need to do. So this is our rose bush, and you can see that the foliage, if you saw the previous video, nothing has really changed on this. It obviously didn't add any more foliage, but it hasn't dropped its foliage either. This actually gave me 3 blooms within weeks of planting it, and it did phenomenally well, but then it just sort of went dormant. The problem with this is our temperatures have been very mild. None of this foliage has fallen off, which means I'm going to have to defoliate it because, number one, we do not want the possibility of this plant coming out of dormancy too early. And with our temperatures the way they are here in West Central Missouri, oftentimes they will fluctuate. So we might have a nice, beautiful 70-degree day sometime in January and then have it drop into the negatives. We don't want any new growth to be encouraged on this thing, and we definitely want it to stay dormant. The second thing is you can see that if that temperature swing starts to happen, you might end up with some foliar diseases. And that freeze-thaw cycle is only going to serve to encourage that foliar disease to hang around. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to defoliate this plant. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to add some mint mulch. Now, I got this plant from heirloomroses.com. They have like 700 different varieties of roses that you can choose from. They are own root roses. But the good thing is they have a fantastic search function that allows you to narrow down the selection based on what your USDA growing zone is, what type of rose you're looking for, whether you want something that's a climber, how fragrant you want it. And I specifically looked for one that would do well in my zone, that would do well in a container. I am not a rose person. Every rose that I have had thus far in my life was one that was already in existence when I moved into a place, or that somebody else in my household purchased and that I didn't really do a whole lot with because I never had good luck. When I saw that I could get one for a container and I had this spot to fill, I thought this would be perfect. What I did see on the Heirloom Roses site was that they offer mint compost, and this was a new concept for me, but apparently it's not that unusual to use mint in combination with roses, not only as a way to help prevent pests, but also to help enrich the soil. Well, it just so happens that I started a new experiment this season, and I am using mint as a living mulch in some of my raised beds. And so it was the first year for this mint to be planted, which means some of it has died back. So I'm going to be able to go and clip a lot of that mint and use the dried leaves to go ahead and kind of act like a mulch around the base of this plant, but then it's also going to get a heavy layer of straw. So if I cover it with the straw and that mint is in contact with the soil, then it will start to break down like a compost, and it should enhance that soil. The third thing that we're going to do is we're going to move this pot and we're going to move it up against the house. The incoming temperatures are going to get down into the single digits, and it's going to be for an extended period of time. If this plant were in ground, I probably wouldn't worry about it so much because roses are very hardy, and obviously if it's in the ground, that soil is going to be more insulated. But with it being in a pot and that soil being more exposed to the air temperatures, I'm worried about it freezing too solidly and damaging the roots on this plant. So we're going to move it up against the wall. So 3 things: defoliate it first, and then we're going to add the mint mulch. We're going to add that straw mulch, and then we're going to go ahead and move it over to the side of the house. So let's get moving. so totally defoliated, which by the way is how they shipped this to me. They had stripped it all off so that it wouldn't get damaged in shipping, and it very, very quickly put on all that new growth. This plant looks really, really healthy. Okay, so next thing, we're gonna go out front and we are gonna go grab some mint, and we are going to add that to the top of this soil. So these are the raised planters that I'm doing this little experiment in. There are 10 of these Planter Box Direct planters, and you can see the mint that was planted in these. You can also see the weeds that are popping up. We'll take care of that. But this is my experiment this year, is to plant mint, which I did this last spring, and then let it do its thing as a low growing kind of ground cover, and then go ahead and plant our plants in between so that this acts as a mulch. It acts as a way to kind of keep the weeds at bay once we get them all cleared out, and should also help with repelling insects. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, you can see that a lot of this is already dead. So I'm gonna go ahead and clip a lot of this off, and we're gonna use this for our rose bush. All right, we have our dried mint. We're going to take it back over there to the rose bush, and we are going to strip this off. We'll strip the leaves off of the stems and add that to the base of the plant, and then we're going to go ahead and mulch it with some straw. What you doing? Yeah? Come on. Actually, I think before I add the mint and before I put the mulch in, we're just going to go ahead and move this pot up against the house. That way I don't lose anything in the process of getting it moved. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add the mint to the base of this, and then we'll add some straw. And at that point, I will decide whether or not I want to go ahead and put any additional cover over this. So you can see I'm just stripping the leaves off of here and putting the dead leaves in there or the dried leaves in there, and I'm not adding the stem. I'll add the stem if I'm sure that it is completely and totally dry, but I don't want this mint to take hold in this soil. And of course, if the stem has still got some green to it and it's still alive, it very well may root if it gets warm enough with these fluctuations in temperature. So I'm just playing it on the safe side, and we're just adding the leaves for the most part. And let me tell you, this smells amazing right now. I will also not be adding any of the seed heads. Some of this mint did go to flower at the end of the season, and you can see that there is some flower heads there. There's some seed heads there, and we don't want to be planting any of that. Now, I don't mind if it falls down in these rocks over here underneath the leaves and starts to take hold and grow, but I don't want it in the pot, so that's not going in. Yeah, it's cold out here. Okay, so that's made a nice little layer on top of that soil. Now, you know, if I was using this as an actual compost, I would be adding more of this, but this is just acting like a little bit of a mulch right now. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and put the straw over top of this so that this part that's in contact with the soil will start to break down a little bit. I likely am going to go ahead and just order a bag of the actual mint compost from Heirloom Roses. because, I don't have enough to be able to create my own, at least not right away, and I would love to be able to amend this with something in the spring. But it's something to keep in mind as I'm growing this mint out through the rest of the season, to be able to maybe pull some of that and start to compost it so that I can make my own. If I start adding more of these roses in and around the property, which, I'm loving this one so much right now that I very well may say, yes, I'm going to do that, then obviously I wouldn't be able to continue to create enough of my own, and I would start buying it from them. But in the meantime, oh my gosh, this smells absolutely amazing. And I'm going to get the straw and do what I need to with that. Okay, I think at this point we're good. That is a decent amount of mulch in the top. That's also a good amount of straw around the base of the plant. I'm not as worried about this, I don't think. My biggest concern was the soil itself. So I think we're going to leave that uncovered and just let it do its thing. Now, the good thing is I can go in the house and I can get on the Heirloom Roses website, and they have all kinds of guides available on there. And they also have been sending me emails periodically talking about how to care for the roses. And so I think, as someone who is most decidedly never been a rose person, and my forte has always been fruits and vegetables, those emails are absolutely helping guide me in what I should be doing right now. So there's the update on my fall planted rose that has gone in. That's the sort of winterization of the rose that we're going to do right now as these temperatures start to move in. So hopefully that was informative and that helps guide you in what you might need to be doing for your own rose bush right now if you're in a cold climate. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we will have a beautiful blooms starting in the spring. Until next time, take care. For more information about today's topic and to find all the ways you can get in touch with me or support the show, go to justgrowsomethingpodcast.com. Until next time, my gardening friends, keep learning and keep growing.